Hey guys, this is Suzette the Marriage Warrior, and we're going to talk about whether or not you think your toxicity in your marriage is just not sustainable anymore. This is a very serious subject. A lot of people are considering exiting their marriages because it's just not livable anymore. There's too much gaslighting, too much blame shifting. You're not able to express your emotions. I mean, it's like you're living two different lives in the same house. And I know a lot of you guys are looking at the roommate stage videos trying to figure out how to live in this because it feels toxic. And it is. And so I'm going to give you some steps today to figure out how to live in it for a short term, to decide how you can either continue living in it and heal yourself or make a strategy to exit. So first thing you have to do is not just plan an exit. I can't live in this anymore, so I'm just going to leave. That's not what you need to do. You first need to get your own self-centered, because if you've had a lot of energy drain from the toxicity in the arguments and the conflict resolutions that never occur and all of the blame shifting and the repressed emotions and the coping mechanisms and all that stuff, it has drained you. And so you first have to center you in order to make any good decisions. So it's like, okay, how do I center myself? You first have to figure out what are your energy drains. So I would encourage you to sit and journal and start meditating. A practice of meditation will assist you greatly. Breathing exercises will assist you greatly. In other words, just inhale the breath, hold the breath, and then release the tension, and just be able to ground yourself in your own energies without concentrating on all the chaos that's going on outside of you, inside of your marriage. Then you need to figure out what are my non-negotiables? What are my things that are no-go anymore? And then what are my negotiables? So if you kind of journal that and figure out which ones can you change and maybe possibly work with your partner to change, and which ones do you just need to let go? Battles you don't really need to fight, especially right now. Because most of the time, if you're in a toxic environment, communication is the thing lacking, because you can't get from one topic to another without some explosion going on. And even if it's a silent war where, someone's gaslighting and then just walking away and shutting the door and shutting you out, you never can get that conversation going. And so then you feel depleted of energy. And so these energy drains on you have impacted and damaged you psychologically, emotionally, spiritually. So you've lost yourself some. So it's really important before you start making any decisions on whether or not the marriage is going to last and if this is something you can live in or leave, you got to reset your own energies. And so the steps to do that is to first start a practice of meditation, journaling, breathing. And if you start journaling your no-goes and your negotiables, then that's something that will start to clarify and kind of open a road for you to kind of see, okay, what can I concentrate on? And what can I try to engage some in conversations on, and what I cannot. The next thing is to recenter yourself on your own values. Are you being treated well? Do you know you deserve better? What are the things that you're having to say yes to that you really want to say no, or you're saying no to that you really want to say yes to just to please this other person or just to make this environment livable? Because the reality is it's not livable. A human being cannot stay in a toxic situation for long without really damaging themselves. So your self-love has to be important, and then being able to figure out how to self-love myself. And when you sit down with self and you write down non-negotiables and negotiables, and you write down what are the centered values that you need to connect with, regain inside of yourself, to empower and strengthen your ability to go forward in a communication, that will help you center yourself when you actually talk. And then whenever you're actually getting these things kind of laid out and you pray over them, you meditate over them, you get rid of and release energies around them so that then you can calmly address your partner on some of these things you've learned about yourself. Meanwhile, if you do this work for a couple of weeks before you actually have a confrontation, where you're gonna, kind of not lay down the law, but just basically say, this is not livable for me anymore. You want to make sure that you're ready for that conversation energetically, where you are cleared and ready instead of very triggered and knowing that you're going to falter into the same patterns that your partner might be, where you're blame shifting and you're walking away and all that. So if you can reset yourself to where you feel calmer, and then when you actually have the strength and empowerment to have the conversation, those conversations need to be structured. And so if you ask your partner, hey, I'd like to talk to you maybe tomorrow when you get back in town, or later today, or, I've got to talk about some serious things, then you're setting your partner up to be prepared emotionally that we need to talk. And this partner wants to, you as the partner is ready to talk about some serious things. So when you go to your partner and y'all set aside some time to have a serious conversation, no TVs, no phones, and you can request that from your partner, then you lay out the things that you want to talk about calmly. And you do it without a lot of blame. You take ownership in it, where you're saying, listen, where we are and what we're doing is just not livable for me anymore. I'm not trying to threaten divorce. Make sure you say that. But I need change, and I need us to address some of these things. And I want to hear your opinion on these things, and I want you to hear my opinion on these things. And that's a way to start a very heated conversation that is going to trigger both of y'all. And if you use the terms, this is not livable for me anymore, instead of I am ready for a divorce, then they may be open to hear you. Now, if you have a situation where they just sit there and it's like the deer in the headlights and you're the only one talking, that still is good for your resetting of your own energies, because at least you're getting it out, which will help you, and they are at least listening on some level. If they don't give any real response and they just take it in and you feel like you just talked to a wall, then know that there's something that has been accomplished. Don't get discouraged. There's something's been accomplished, because the energies are now shifting to where you're empowered a little more than you were before, when you were repressing it, or basically just, in some toxic argument all the time. And so once you do that, if they don't give you any feedback at the time that you're having that conversation, then wait a couple of days and then readdress it. During those couple of days, continue doing your journal work on your values, resetting your own energies, being able to engage in some of the hobbies that you enjoy, finding yourself again, because you've lost yourself in a draining relationship. And so make sure that you're busy on trying to regroup yourself. Do things for yourself that you normally weren't doing anymore. I mean, if it's just getting dressed up to go somewhere, do that. Start finding yourself, and then re-enter the conversation again. And if that person wants to say some things to you about what they thought about, great. Then that's something that you may have some hope in. If they are not and they're shut down again, then you've got to have another conversation about, it takes two people to work on a relationship, and I need to know if you're willing to or not. And then that becomes a whole nother negotiation.